Amanda is in her 16th year at Fredonia School District. She spent a majority of her time in Fredonia teaching mathematics, has experience at all levels, 7 through 12, and has had the amazing opportunity of filling the technology integrator position on a one-year grant funding. So she has experienced the role of a supportinator. As a teacher, Amanda has a great passion for technology and enjoys applying it to educational settings. She spends a great deal of time coming up with unique lessons that involve technology, and if you've been at our EdTech forums, you've probably experienced or have had them shared with you. They are awesome. She finds pleasure in trying new methods of instructing students. As technology advances in our society, it's pertinent that students are exposed to various forms of technology. She focuses on providing opportunities in the classroom that provide students with tools for success. Those tools can be values, content, technology, or simply the confidence to try something new. She's a co-mentor in the Fredonia Schools K-12 Mentor Program. The last 3 years, she has her Google Level 1 certification, Symbaloo EDU certification, Flipgrid certification. She's a Nice Skate grant winner and breakout EDU game designer. She's busy. She is an active member of AMTNS, the Association of Mathematics Teachers of New York State, serves as a junior middle level representative on the AMTNS executive board. When she's not teaching math and involved in all of this awesome stuff, Amanda enjoys coaching girls modified volleyball, running, and teaching a variety of fitness classes. So our next TIF Talk speaker, without further ado, Amanda Pacanowski.
Hello and welcome. Is the mic on? Yeah? Okay. So before I say a bunch to you, I thought it would be a really cool idea, and I kind of wish that I had listened to Mike first before I talked, because I would have had a student come in and hack my presentation and had them do the whole thing. But since I didn't think about that, I did think about getting some students' perspectives for you. So rather than me just tell you a bunch of things that I do and the reasons that I do it, I thought I'll give you some of their perspectives first, and before I talk a bunch, we're gonna play a few for those. Can you turn it up?
A one-on-one thing, and it's easier to concentrate, I guess.
And that helps you understand a little bit better? Mm-hmm. Okay. What's your favorite activity or lesson that we've done in math class this year?
Smadness.
Smadness. What did you like about Smadness?
It kind of like encourages you to be more competitive about the math.
Yeah, all that extra thinking too. It wasn't easy, was it?
No, it wasn't.
I think you might have told me that your brain hurt when we were doing that. What's your favorite tech tool that we've used in class?
Google Classroom. When we do the videos, I can pause and play and rewatch it, and it's easier to understand because like you don't usually like stop. You just kind of keep going so you can get the lesson done and stuff. But like it's easier to pause.
Absolutely. Thank you. So first I want to ask you, what engages you in your learning? What motivates you to learn?
What motivates me is when we do fun stuff other than notes. Video lessons, when you do those video lessons, those are fun. Like the lesson we just did with quadratics, how you let us color, and we learned a new song. That engages me because it's not just always notes, it's always something different.
Perfect. What's your favorite activity or lesson or tool from this year's math class?
I definitely think it's the video lessons because when you're absent, you don't have to get caught up because you already have the lesson, you already have knowledge on the lesson from watching it.
Perfect. So how do you use those lessons?
So I go on to Google Classroom and I use them at home when I'm absent. Usually some of my friends give me the notes and I just fill them in, and then you usually ask me how I did on the lesson, and I said I feel good about it, and if I don't feel good about it, you say stay after and I'll help you.
Perfect. It's like you weren't even out. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So first I want to ask you, what is your favorite activity or lesson that we've done in math class this year?
This year, my favorite activity that we've done was when we did the breakout, because it was really different because I'd never done any of my classes, but it was also challenging because we couldn't just rely on what Ms. Pat gave us. We had to do something outside of the box that we hadn't normally done.
And you enjoyed it even though you did not actually break out?
Yes.
Okay, it was enough just to have it be the competitive edge?
Yes.
All right, perfect. What engages you in your learning?
Mostly hands-on activities because it's a lot easier to comprehend if you're moving around than when you're just staring at a screen because it's easier to get distracted.
Perfect. And is there a technology tool that we have used in math this year that you have found helpful?
I think it's most helpful when you record the screen and then post it on Google for when the students are absent because it's a lot easier to catch up that way instead of having to stay after or spend your time.
Perfect. Have you used those?
I have.
Just when you were absent, or have you used them anytime after class to help review?
I've used them sometimes after class in study hall if I didn't understand some of the lessons so I could go over it in my head.
Perfect. All right, thank you. So tell me what your favorite activity or lesson that we did in math class this year.
It has to be Kahoot.
Kahoot. And what do you like about Kahoot?
You get to compete against different people.
So does it matter to you if you're winning?
No.
You just enjoy it, you like that competition? Yeah. Okay. What engages you in your learning?
Whenever I'm stuck on a problem, I usually text one of my friends or call them or FaceTime them or something in that. So I just do that.
Just do that? So
yeah.
If you didn't have that technology available to you, would it be a much different learning experience for you?
Probably. I think I wouldn't know what to do for
okay.
it.
So a lot more frustration and be lost a little bit more.
Yeah.
What technology have we used this year that has been helpful for you?
Google Classroom has helped me. When I was out for my foot.
What on Google Classroom has helped you?
There's videos that you make.
Okay.
When I was out for my foot for those 2.5 weeks, I went on there every single day, and it was like you were just in class, I guess.
So you watched them with us like every day that they were posted, so it was
yeah.
like you were in class with us?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Have you only used those when you were absent, or?
No, I haven't. I went on there a few days ago, or last week or something, to go and study for stuff because I didn't know like the review things. I didn't know where my notes were.
Okay.
So I went on there.
So you just went on there and looked it up.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so from those, hopefully you can tell, I do a lot of variety. I want to talk about my title. I'm just a teacher. So we were at a conference, and a lot of times I am in a mix, like today, and I'm presenting amongst technology integrators. And I'm the only teacher who's presenting. So I constantly say, I'm just a teacher. And one of my friends pointed out to me, you are just a teacher, and you shouldn't discount yourself for that, because you are just a teacher who not only teaches your content, you integrate technology, you create new things, and you're out there in the forefront actually applying all of this stuff. So you are just a teacher, but I'm a lucky teacher. I get to do all of that stuff that we learn about. So when I come to TIF or I come to workshops, I get to take that stuff back and apply it with my students, and I'm in that mix. So I started to spin this in a different light. And if you know me, you have heard me say this a lot, that I'm just a teacher. So now I say that I'm just a teacher who takes risks, who incorporates technology, innovates new lessons, and uses this to inspire and challenge my students every single day. So I have this little quote up here. You don't have to see the whole staircase just to take the first step. So I want to challenge you today to take that first step. My whole presentation is about taking risks. If I hadn't taken that first step and taken that risk, I would not be where I am today. So even if it's just turning a worksheet into something that's a little more interactive, I want to encourage every single one of you to take that step, to take that risk, and I want you to go back to your districts and inspire your teachers and your kids and your students to all just take that one little step. It doesn't have to be all at once, just a little bit at a time. So my inspiration for this, I started my career as a high school math teacher. In our district, high school is 9 through 12, and middle school is 5 through 8. After 7 years of teaching, got moved to the middle school, and I found myself really struggling. There was no way that I was going to teach these middle school kids the same that I had taught my high school classes. The instructional protocol that I knew was not going to work, and it was glaringly obvious to me. So I knew I had to make some changes. They weren't going to change for me. As hard as I tried and as stubborn as I was trying to be, it wasn't working. So I said, I have to do something different. I have to make these changes. So I attended my very first NICE conference, and I was so inspired by what all of these other educators, other school districts were doing. We did not have a lot of technology available to us, so I begged, borrowed, and stealed what I could, and I started with an iPad cart. I could loan it out of our library. I didn't even know before this that we had iPads in our school district, but I emailed at least a dozen people in our district to figure out what we had available. So I started small. It wasn't every day. I started by taking some worksheets and turning them into QR codes and making it a little bit more of a scavenger hunt for the kids, and it worked. They were up, they were moving around, they were actually enjoying my math class. These middle schoolers that I did not know how to connect to, all of a sudden were having some fun, and the next day they'd come in and ask me, can we do that again? So I realized that was working. I needed to continue to make changes and take risks. I might not know everything, but 9 times out of 10, there was a kid in my classroom. If I didn't know how to fix it, they knew more than I did, and I had to become okay with the fact that my students might be the ones who are helping me and teaching me. It was a scary risk that I was taking, because I went from just knowing everything, not really, but feeling like I knew everything, to turning some of the instructional stuff over to them and saying, hey, do you know how to do this? Do you know how to do that? And I started taking some of their opinions on what they would like to do. I also started attending TIF. So I became active at TIF South and realized I wanted to start making some changes. I applied for some grants for technology. Many of them I did not get, but a couple of them I did. So the biggest step for me was when I was awarded one of the NICE grants, and I got 6 iPads for my classroom. 6 iPads doesn't sound like a lot, but you can do a whole lot with 6 iPads in your classroom if you're just used to being able to sign out a cart every once in a while. That was a lot for me. Then I started taking some gambles. I started applying for Donors Choose grants and Samsung grants. Samsung I never won. I'm not saying that, I still wouldn't try out for those. But Donors Choose, I have actually won. I've proposed about 5 grants on Donors Choose, and I had 1 funded. And I got a 3D printer for my classroom last year. So you just never know. You've got to take the risks, and you've got to kind of step outside and think outside the box. So as I was taking these risks and as things were starting to turn around for me, I realized it had to transition from that old school classroom. If I was going to be incorporating technology, doing innovative and creative things, my kids had to realize that, you know what, I need to hold your attention somehow. And as teachers, we all know it's hard to hold anyone's attention. I mean, you guys are already checked out, which I totally get it, because I would be too. But it's hard to hold people's attention. So you have to put on a show. You have to be that entertainer and that rock star for them every single day. It takes a lot of energy. But once you start doing that, your kids are going to start taking some risks and joining in on that show that you have in your classroom every day. It's not very loud. Okay, there we go. So these are some strategies that I have implemented in my classroom, some technology ideas. Some of them don't involve the technology where the kids are using it. Take a moment, kind of look through that. I do have my slides linked on the TIF Talks website as well. So if you want to go back and look, feel free. But these are just a few of the things that I've played around with.
And all that was real is left behind. Don't fight it, it's coming for you, running at you. It's only this moment, don't care what comes after. Yeah, for a dream, can't you see, getting closer to surrender, cause you feel the feeling taking over. It's fire, it's freedom, it's flying open. It's a picture in the pulpit and your blind devotion. There's something breaking at the brick of every wall that's holding all that you know. So tell me, do you want to go?
All right, so I already talked about some of the student interviews that I did. I did those mostly for the presentation, but I learned so much by talking to my students. None of those interviews were planted. I teach one section of advanced math. I teach, and that's 8th grade, so their 8th graders actually learning algebra, so it's high school content. I teach 3 sections of 8th grade math, one of which is a consultant section. And I also teach our 8th grade AIS. So those are students getting intervention services. Sorry. Now, on the Padlet that I linked, there are actually 9 interviews. I didn't want the whole presentation to be of me playing the interviews and you just kind of sitting there. So I didn't want to play them all, but they are all very, very interesting to hear. So on that Padlet, there are 3 of my advanced students. The rest of them are all my AIS students, students that struggle with math, they don't like math, they've never been good at math, but they all had positive things to say, and they all liked the variety. Each of them had something different that they enjoyed. So I encourage you to check out my slides, go to my Padlet link, and just listen through the rest of those. And you'll see a lot of them, if you didn't notice the trend already, a lot of them like the video lessons. So I have flipped my classroom, the traditional flip, but I don't do it every unit. I do 1 unit here and there. So they don't get bored with it. All of a sudden, oh, this unit is flipping? Yay, I love those video lessons. Then by the end of the unit, we go back to our regular class routine, and then the next time we go to those video lessons, they're refreshed, just rejuvenated. So they don't get tired from those. One of my favorite things that I've just started implementing, now this doesn't necessarily have a device in front of them, but it's doodle notes. If you haven't looked into doodle notes, I encourage you to, and I encourage you to go back to your school and have your teachers look into them. The notes are pretty much what I would have given them to before, but I made it kind of pretty, where they're coloring while they're taking the notes. It opens up both parts of the brain. Those kids that are more creative, that really struggle, have something to do, have something to draw, color in, and they're still listening to me. They're still paying attention. There's kids that are coming in the next day, and they're going back to their notes from yesterday because they didn't finish coloring in the picture they wanted to. I would have never had that before. So that's another one of my favorite things that one of the students that I interviewed mentioned. But I would say for all of them, the video lessons and the doodle notes are probably their favorite. The other thing that I do, not with flipping, but just regular everyday instruction, is I record my lessons live. So after the lesson, I post it to Google Classroom. Every day they have a video that's posted. If they're absent, they can listen to that lesson and they get that instruction. So I was fighting for years with kids that would be out because of a music lesson, or they were sick. and they were having to make up all of this work, and it ended up being more work for me than it was for them. So I started to record, and I thought, let's try it. They all have access to Google Classroom. Now, when kids are out, one of the students that I interviewed had surgery. She was out of our school for 3 weeks. She came back with all of her work done. She did not miss a day. She was the one who said, I watched the lesson every day as if I was in class. And if I had a question, I just text my friend or I sent them a snap. That's awesome to me. Using those resources and the fact that she could stay on track as she was out, it was like she was in the classroom. She came back, she was still getting the normal grades that she would normally get. She didn't have to make up anything. She came in, she took the test, and she was right on track with all the rest of her classmates, not a minute behind. It was like she was in class every single day. So if nothing else from today sticks, I would strongly encourage you to inspire your teachers to start recording their lessons so the kids there, they can be present and they won't miss anything. So my hope is to inspire you, to inspire teachers, to inspire anyone who's listening today to take some risks. Now, I don't want you just going out taking a risk for no reason. You have to have a purpose. So these risks are called beautiful risks. On the bottom of my slide, I have a link for you, and it links to an article. I'm not going to read you the article. You can read it on your own if you wish to. But it talks about taking beautiful risks in education. Not risks just for the sake of taking. Not a good risk, not a bad risk. It's a risk where you are hoping that something productive comes out of it. It might flop, and that's okay. You make adjustments. So I'm going to let you just read our definition of a beautiful risk here. In a lot of our classes, curriculum and content just gets in the way. There's so much of it that we have to cover, and it's a challenge. I struggle with it every day because I am the teacher who says, I don't want to discourage that kid who could get a 100 on the final by not teaching this. But I also have kids that are at a 3rd grade level and they're in 8th grade math. And I have to reach them too. And it's a constant battle every single day. We all have that battle. We just have to think about what's best for our students and how to inspire them, to keep them moving forward, to keep them wanting and desiring to take beautiful risks for themselves. So establishing openings for them, spots where they could kind of go off on their own and they could challenge themselves in ways that we might not even think that they'd be able to challenge themselves. if you're taking those risks, if you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, you will probably feel like you are on a crazy train, day in, day out. It'll just become the normal life for you, but that's okay, because you're going to inspire your kids to take those risks. You're going to inspire them to work outside of their comfort zone if you work outside of your comfort zone. Now, it was mentioned in the earlier talk, you have to share. It's not a competition. We're not in battle with each other. We are battling for our students, for their education and their well-being. So rather than creating something and saying, this is awesome, I'm just going to keep it to myself, share it. Let other teachers know what works for you. If you find a lesson that you rocked, share that with your colleagues. Even if they're not in your discipline, they might be able to take that and apply it to their subject. And you know what? If you find a lesson that completely flops and you're on the crazy train that day, share that too, because they might have a fix. They might be able to help you tweak it so you're not throwing that out. I encourage you to build a network, to share, to collaborate. These are all things that are in our Common Core learning standards for our students. Collaboration, working together, not being in competition with each other all the time. It's about working together, taking risks, and having a support system when you take those risks. So I really hope that you've been inspired to kind of step outside of the box today. I want you to just take a minute and think about something that you've thought about trying, but maybe you haven't quite implemented yet. Maybe it's a teacher that you kind of wanted to approach because you think you have something that might work for them, but that teacher doesn't really like it when I step in. I want to encourage you to take that risk, because maybe that teacher wants your help but is afraid to ask for it because it's going to make them look weak. Maybe it's a student that you work with that you just can't break through. In my AIS class, these kids come in and they are so annoyed that they have 2 periods of math. They hate math, they're bad at math, and now they have to come to my classroom for a second period in the day. But these are the kids that when I interview them say, I like that you work with me one-on-one. I like that you made me think about order of operations when we played that Smadness game. You made my brain hurt. That's awesome. Push those students. Build those relationships. With that support, you will go a lot further. So I encourage you to take that risk that you've been thinking about, that you've been on the fence about, and it's okay if you join the crazy train with us, because I think we're all there sometimes. Just step outside the box and take some beautiful risks for yourself. Thank you.